I'm going to get started, but before I do, I just want to congratulate the students that are here today. Thank you for joining us. My name is Emily Olzak. Some of you I have texted 1,000 times before, so it's finally nice to see you this way. I am an admissions advisor in the Office of Admissions. I'm going to have my colleagues introduce themselves before I run down some laundry list items. But Chris, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Chris McDermott. I'm Director of First Year Enrollment, and I couldn't be happier that you're joining us today. So hopefully you're going to reap some valuable information and know that we're always around if you need us, and I'll put admissions information in the chat box window if you need it.
Hi everyone, Carolyn Mackey, Director of Academic Exploration, here to chat with you tonight about the program and answer all your questions. Welcome.
Hi guys, I'm Emily. I'm a current senior at Niagara, and I started out in the Academic Exploration program for 2 full years. They basically had to kick me out of there, so I have all the best things to say, and I would be glad to answer any questions that you guys have and tell you a little bit about how I declared my major.
Perfect. So thanks guys. So I'm going to do a few laundry list items for you guys who are here, just so we're all on the same page. But if you haven't already, we highly recommend the Facebook group to join, the Fall 2020 entry class at Niagara University. It's a great way to have meet roommates. Students have been meeting roommates, meeting each other, meeting students in the same majors, as well as we have contests regularly, Facebook Lives that go on regularly. So it's a great way to get quick information. So if you haven't joined that, I highly recommend you doing that first, as well as next.niagara.edu. That's a great resource for you to use to kind of give a student checklist. So whether that be for health forms, the residence hall has opened May 1st, so you can request your roommates now if you do have something. So the Res Life questionnaire, all that is open. So that checklist on next.niagara.edu is a great resource for you to get things in order for summer orientation and before you begin your time at Niagara. So again, I want to make this a very casual conversation for you guys. So there's not many here. So if you aren't shy, you could always ask a question, or if you are the shy one like myself, I would be typing in the comments. So you can always feel free to type the comments. We're very lucky that we have the director, Carolyn, and also Emily, a student. So any questions you may have. So I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn. And again, ask your questions as we will continue to look and monitor the group chat, so then we can keep it moving. But all right, Carolyn, all yours.
All right, thanks so much. I don't know if I buy into the shy thing.
Yeah. It's all, you know,
fair enough. Okay. All right, welcome everyone. So a few of you have heard me talk about this program before. So here's what it is logistically. Right? And then I'm going to jump into what has been identified as some of the top questions and concerns that come across admissions representatives from students all the time regarding this program. And I think that'll give you a fair amount of information. Then we're going to leave plenty of time for Emily to jump in and give her testimony, if you will, or address your questions directly. And then I'm happy to do as well. But, you know, given that this is a smaller venue, I think it's ideal that you get some undivided attention about our program and what you're interested in. So academic exploration fundamentally helps students at Niagara choose majors. And that process takes place by joining the program, being assigned to one advisor that you're with the entire time you're in the program, and Emily will probably mention her advisor, Katie, as one of our staff members. And that's to build good, consistent working relationships with our students. Okay, so you're assigned to one advisor, you meet with that advisor minimally 3 times a semester. You're welcome to come as often as you would like to, and some students do, frequent flyers if you will. But minimally 3 appointments that you have throughout this semester with us helps us to achieve our goals with you, which would be to help you identify interests that you have in majors and connected careers to those majors. So this can be anywhere from having an interest in one major to 2, 3 or more, and how do you navigate all of that exploring. or you're the student who falls into the category of you have no idea where to start. You're not even sure what major you would pursue just yet. So all that we do with our students helps to individualize the needs that the students have in our program when we start to meet with them one-on-one. So those 3 appointments, if that sounds like a lot in a semester, it's really only coming to the office about once every 3 weeks. And the goal of completing those appointments are to have them done prior to registration for the next semester, right? So again, here's the 2 cornerstones of our program: academic advisement and experiential learning. So the academic advisement I'm going to talk about for a few more minutes because it ties into some of the top concerns that students have in our program. And then the experiential learning means that's when you get outside of the classroom and you do some things that are hands-on. You go to some events that might be hosted by the other colleges at Niagara University. So when we're talking about majors that you're picking, they're all falling within the 4 areas that we have with education, business, hospitality, and arts and sciences. So wide range of majors offered by all 4 of those areas. So all of those colleges have some individual events that they host throughout the academic year. And fortunately, because we have such good working relationships with all departments on campus, academic exploration students are invited to these events. So let me give you an example. The College of Business has a Meet the Accountants night. So if you're interested in accounting, you could attend that event and benefit from some free food and beverages, which college students always appreciate, and be able to circulate among invited professional accountants who attend the event. And that way students can ask questions about what it's like to be an accountant, the real deal understanding of that career. And that enhances then what students are also learning in the classroom when it comes to taking accounting courses and learning the material itself, right? So these are the 2 areas. So now what are some of the top concerns or need for information that students will have when it comes to academic exploration? So again, classes. How do you go about choosing your classes? And again, that working relationship with your advisor in academic exploration is going to be the person who guides you through advisement for each semester and helps you to select classes. So those classes can be to sample something from a major you're interested in, and they're also going to be some of the required classes that you have to take, or courses, if you will, that all Niagara University students participate in, right? So there's 2 sets of courses that students complete that come from 2 areas. For the major, and then also for the general education requirements. And these are some of the new things that you're learning. So I don't want to get too in depth into a lot of the terms and everything that have to do with what you learn in higher ed when you come. It's all going to fall into place, and Emily might even be able to attest to that, like what you start to learn when you actually come to college and participate. But you're going to be guided on what is best to take from the very first semester. So we start to build that relationship right from the start. So you're never alone for choosing these courses. You're going to be guided along the way. And it's always with the goal of a 4-year graduation plan. So we want to assure you that being in this program and exploring isn't something that's going to automatically set you behind by any means, because of the courses we're advising you to take. We're making sure everything is counting towards a requirement, and we're going to explain that to you for every direction you're interested in. So if you're, again, one of those students interested in 2, 3, or more majors, where are all those courses going to place if you were to go in any one of those directions? So at no point should a student in our program not know what they're taking and what requirement is fulfilling. So that's part of, a big part of, I should say, the program is advisement. So being advised for courses, and not only being advised for them, but how do you register? And how do you know what to do if things are closed? And how do you choose alternate courses, right? So, and we're there to not only help you through that process in the beginning, middle, and end, but all of the advisors in this program then review students' schedules after every registration period and make sure that everything is in place. And if there's anything that needs adjusting, we're reaching out to our advisees and helping them make those changes. Transfer credit. Another big area, a lot of students are taking AEP courses. They're taking courses from community colleges that are associated with their high schools. This is information we also pay attention to right from the beginning. So it might be either you have shared a transcript or reported that already as you're starting to submit your forms and information to the university, or by our actual review of our students who are coming into the program. We look at high school transcripts, and there's times we've identified credit for students that they weren't even aware was potential college credit. And we talk about that with each of our students. So we're paying attention to what those courses are and what they would be the equivalent of at the university. And again, this is going to get explained to you throughout these meetings that you have in academic exploration and the advisement process. So we want to make sure that those courses count towards requirements, and if possible, that they stay intact throughout your time. And it may help you by giving you a little head start in some areas, or gives you a little more room to pursue some opportunities like a double major, or adding on multiple minors, or maybe you're even thinking of studying abroad. There's no limits in academic exploration. We can help students start to plan all of these things from the beginning. So it may be that you're thinking about the here and now. What is the major that I'm going to choose? But we're also working with our students at the big plan. What is it that you want to do in your 4 years at Niagara as well? So how about if you change to another major, right? And so some students might not initially join academic exploration, and then they start at the university in another major, and then they decide to join the program. So for you folks that I'm talking with tonight, if you don't necessarily start off in our program, but you do choose a major prior to the start of the fall semester, but then again, start to think, no, I think I could use academic exploration's guidance. We can help you make that change into our program for the time being. Or if you're already in the program and you're starting to think about a new major that catches your eye after, let's say, your first year, we can help you with that transition. There really isn't any path that you can start on at the university and get underway within the first year that would derail basically any other plan that you could have and put you far behind. Now, what is the reality of it? Sometimes there might be a course or two or a little bit of catching up that could take place depending on the major. So I need to say that ahead of time because I think it's important not to mislead students and give them realistic understanding about what could take place with pursuing majors. But more often than not, there are so many directions that you could then switch gears and start to work towards and be fine. It's just going to be a shifting of courses, and again, towards different requirements that we're going to explain to you ahead of time so that you know exactly what you're dealing with. And again, if you think about your first year in higher ed, you have so many semesters ahead of you that you could do a little extra coursework. You have summers that you could take a transfer course from a local community college if you're from out of state, or from Niagara, or another institution in our area, quite frankly. And all of this can be part of that big plan that we help students with. But rarely is it a matter of that you are so far behind that you have this mountain to climb to get onto that new path. So hopefully that's reassuring. And again, we talk about American college students. High percentage of students will change their major at least once while in college, and it's numbers somewhere around 80%. Some of the last of the data that I've seen from the Department of Educational Statistics. So if you think about that, those of you in attendance tonight, fall in a majority of students that have not yet figured out a major or change your mind at least once. And that's what academic exploration is about. You're in our program for up to 4 semesters, and you can work through all of those options and ideas with us and do it in a supported and efficient manner, for knowing that all the courses you're taking are going to count towards requirements, and what you learn about each of your degree programs, and what that big picture is, again, for all the things that you want to achieve at the university. And then lastly, how do you transition, right, to your college once you've decided at any point that you're ready? So out of those 4 semesters that I just mentioned, at any point that you're ready to declare, we are happy to move you on. And that transition, as seamless as it can be, is our goal. So we will help students with that process as well. The other colleges are well aware of our program and incoming students. In fact, they really appreciate students joining their college from our program because our students have learned a lot about their major before officially joining that college. And this comes to what is a really significant point that I would like to make, and something I want to emphasize that I feel is so important in today's landscape of higher education. We need to empower students. And right now, you're probably feeling this a little bit with all the schools that you're in and how everything has been shaken up and different, right? And you're trying to learn how to now navigate this new educational landscape, and albeit it's for a shorter amount of time than it'll be when you're in higher ed, but it's the same spirit of it, right? You need to learn it all again in a way. So some of the online learning that all of you students have been dealing with over these past several weeks, it's that concept that you're learning a new landscape in higher education, and we're there to support you with that and empower you so you know what you're doing. So when you move on to your new college and you meet with your new faculty advisor, you're going to have an understanding of your degree program. So when you go to your new advisement appointments with your faculty advisor, a lot of the courses that they're helping you or looking over that you've chosen, not only are you making good selections because you know the coursework you have yet to complete for that major, but you can make sure that it's matching up with what your advisor is saying to you. So you understand you're part of that process where you're meeting that advisor halfway and really knowing what it is about the courses that you're taking. All of this is for, again, that big picture of that four-year graduation plan so that everybody is in step and there aren't any unfortunate surprises along the way, which I tend to call higher ed horror stories. So you might have friends or neighbors or other family members even, either extended or your own siblings that are older than you, that had at some point in their higher education experience some unfortunate surprise with not realizing that when they thought they were about, getting ready to graduate, they were a bit off, that they were behind on some coursework and they weren't sure why. So these are all the things that we aim to avoid with our students by making sure that they're part of this process. And like I said, empowered and understanding their degree programs and all of the other things that go with it. So just to conclude so that we can let students jump in for questions or for Emily now to chime in. The last piece that I would like to attest to is that everybody who works in academic exploration, and maybe this is going to sound corny, but if anybody knows me, my goal is always not to sound like a car salesperson of this program, just to tell you what you want to hear and then, dash off and forget about you. Now, everybody who works in this program is committed to the program and is passionate about working with students. And that is evident in our student service and the work that we do with our students. So the program is holistic in its support of students. So yes, you're here in our program to decide majors, but everything along the way that comes with it, with your experience in higher ed, is something that we can help and support students on and be effective in referrals. So it can have far-reaching effects as far as what you might need some assistance in when it comes to financial aid or finding out about tutoring or utilizing the writing center or interested in counseling services or wanting to get connected to academic-based clubs, on and on it goes. Whatever it is that students need, we're here to help them. And in the most effective manner, not just to be basically a tour guide and just tell you where the office is on the campus, but just spend some time chatting with you about what your needs are and where we need to send you effectively. So you know exactly where you need to go and whom you might need to meet with to help solve whatever it is you're working on or get some further assistance or support or help. So that's enough before I go on and on, which I could because I so believe in our program and I think it's such a benefit at Niagara University. But I want to step back now and let maybe Emily chime in, and then if that sounds all right, as far as next step, and then we can go from there.
Away.
Sure, yeah. Letting everybody come on in with maybe some of their questions or getting some of their needs met otherwise. So Emily, all you.
All right. So I was just reading through the chat, and Amanda said, "What happens if I have no clue where to start for choosing my major?" Well, girl, let me tell you that like when I tell you I had no clue, like I truly mean that I had no clue. So let me just like give you my like background and how I got involved in AEP and how everything, I'll just give you my story. So I was a junior in high school and I was like, you know what, mom and dad, like I'm going to be a pharmacist one day. Like that's what I want to do. I have an uncle that's a pharmacist. He's successful. He loves his job. He loves his work. He talks about it all the time. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm going to be a pharmacist, right? Well, I hate to break it to you all. I am graduating in a week and I am not a pharmacist. So I applied to Niagara as a biology student. And I want to say it was like July, like I had just gotten back from sumo. And I was like, you know, biology, like is that really what I want to do? And my mom was like, Emily, like you need to make up your mind, like you need to just pick a major. And that was like the worst thing she could have said to me, because that puts so much pressure on you as a student, like pick a major, there's so many of them, like how can you not choose? Like it's a hard decision, because to me it felt so permanent. Like once you pick a major, you have to stick with it, and that's the path that you have to live on for the rest of your life. And that is just the complete opposite from the truth. So I did some more looking, like I was talking to my admissions counselor, and I was like, all right, what do I do here? And she was like, why don't you join AEP, because you can still take biology classes, but you don't have to be stuck in that major right now. So I was like, all right, sounds good. So mind you, school hasn't even started yet, and I've already switched my program. And I get to school and I meet my advisor for the first time, and her name was Stephanie. And so first I had Stephanie as my advisor. She was great. And my favorite thing about Stephanie, and then I ended up with a new advisor, Katie, who I stuck with for the rest of the time. Both of them got to know me as a student, which was great because they were able to help me pick classes that I was interested in at the time, but also making sure those classes fit into my schedule properly and I was still going to get credit for all of them. They also both got to know me as a person, like who I am as, like who is Emily, not just who is Emily as a student. Like what do I like to do on the weekends? Like what clubs do I think I should be involved in? Like they knew a little bit about my family and like the whole 9 yards. And that was the best thing for me, because if you as a student allow yourself to open up to your advisor, they'll be able to get to know you on a whole new level and ultimately bring you on the right path. So Stephanie was the best. I absolutely loved her. Like sometimes my friend and I, who also had Stephanie as an advisor, we would just like pop in the office and be like, hey, like is Stephanie around? And everyone's like, she's working. And I'm like, but come on, like I want to see her, like what's up? And like if I was lucky, she'd be free and we would chat and hang out and stuff, and she always had candy, like it was great. And then she had a baby and I was devastated when she left, and I got put with Katie, and I was like, this Katie lady, like she better set the bars, like she better be up here where Stephanie was. And let me tell you, Katie is the best. So I really hope that some of you guys have the opportunity to work with her, because I was like, Stephanie knows everything about me. Like how is somebody else going to learn all these things when Stephanie already worked with me for a whole year? Well, Katie, I still keep in touch with her to this day. So AEP is for your first 2 years of college, and I still was going to her for advisement meetings as a senior. Like what could you possibly need to be advised on as a senior? Everything is the right answer, because I was asking her questions about like, what do I do after I graduate? Like, what about this internship? What about that internship? Because these AEP advisors, they know about every single major. Like they're very well-rounded, because if you want to be in hospitality or criminal justice or biology, education, business, like they know it all. So any question you possibly have, like they will be able to answer it. And for whatever reason, if they're not able to, they know the person that can. So any question I ever had, I always brought right to Katie, because she was just my go-to girl. And like I said, she got to know me as a person. It was absolutely great. And I really was starting to figure out, like, what do I actually want to do? And my biggest thing was I wanted to help people, which is why I thought pharmacy was so cool, because I'll be helping people in the medical field, in the health field. And then I just realized that I started taking biology classes. My grades were horrible. I didn't enjoy what I was learning. And then I was like, maybe this really isn't for me. So Katie sat me down and was like, all right, like, let's look at our options. Like, what about this do you like and what do you not like? Because it's not always like, oh, this is cool, this is cool. But sometimes you have to take classes to learn that, like, this is not for me. Like, this field is not what I meant to do. And that was my biggest thing, is I was so discouraged for a while, because I was like, all right, well, I mean, I guess it's nice that I'm narrowing it down, but I still don't know what I like. And it just takes time. It really does. And you're not going to run out of time. That was my thing. I was like, what if I can't graduate in 4 years? Like, I keep taking all these classes and none of them are what I want. But then I started taking some business courses. And because in my mind, like, you can't help people in business. Like, that was just my mindset, which is, once again, completely not the truth. You just have to find what part of the business suits you best. So I declared my major in marketing, and I lived happily ever after. So I made it out alive and it was great. But if I didn't constantly go and ask questions and continuously meet with my advisor, like Carolyn mentioned, that you have to meet with your advisor a minimum of 3 times. If you were to call up Katie right now and ask how often she saw me, she would probably say like every other week, like at least. I was with her all the time, or if I wasn't in person with her, I was emailing her like, hey, like, just want to let you know, I remember that test I told you I was going to fail, like, I got an 85 on it, had to let you know, like she's my mom or something, like she was going to hang my test on her fridge. But she was always so excited for me because she knew me so well, and we used to talk about like, oh, I went to the movies this weekend, oh my God, I saw the same movie, and it, like, we're just the best of friends, really. So moral of the story, ask questions. Don't be discouraged if you have no idea what you're doing, because I promise that I had no idea what I was doing, and I'm about to graduate and I'm excited for what I'm doing in the future. And like, I feel ready. Like, most importantly, like, I'm ready to leave Niagara and feel confident that I'm not lost. And these last 4 years were just madness. Like, it all worked out for the best. So that was a very long rant. So if you have more specific questions, feel free and I can try to answer them.
No, I think it's nice to see the student's perspective. You know, I think you were in it, and it's nice to see how you felt during the whole time and what you had to do personally as a student too, because I think sometimes, you know, students also have to take that responsibility and try and figure that out as well. And Carolyn has heard me say this before, but I agree with you. I think AEP, they're the smartest people on campus because they have to be, because their students have if they want to be a theater major, a chemist, you know, work in a hotel. I mean, they have to be. So because their students have. So I second that, Emily. So we have a couple of questions coming in.
All right. Let's
So some of them, some people are asking too, like, you know, what if they have a few majors in mind, you know, do you recommend, if they've got 3 different things that they're thinking of doing, do you recommend coming in AEP, or do you recommend them starting in like, my number 1 choice is education, but I'm not quite sure? Like, how would you go around like with that?
Oh, I would recommend, certainly, yes, joining the program. I think anytime you've identified a few majors and not feeling entirely committed to any one of those, because it's going to help the process of figuring it out. And again, the point is so that you understand what all those directions may entail for coursework. And then all the things we can help guide you on for identifying the correct connected careers to any one of those directions. So of course, there's some majors that feel like they're self-explanatory for the career. So when you say teaching, education majors, right, you're easily connecting the career of a teacher to that. But we also talk about some of the other connected careers to education, like a school counselor or a school social worker. Like, you might have a real strong interest in working with students, but maybe you change your mind about wanting to actually instruct them. So that's some of where the fine tuning can come into with exploring careers that are connected with majors. But yes, I would say it would be helpful, because the process could involve the following, right? A student who might just think, okay, I'm interested in this one major, but a couple others, so I'll take a lot of coursework in maybe all directions. There could be something more efficient to do with that, because as much as I'm trying to keep this as a short answer, right? Education can be a little bit involved for the curriculum that you complete for the major. And it's a little tighter as far as all the open areas that you can put other coursework. So it might be ideal to try a course in another major as well that you're thinking about, but you wouldn't necessarily want to load up on a whole bunch of majors in different directions. There are other ways to explore majors aside from taking courses in every single one you're interested in. You might want to just sit in on a class, right, which we help students orchestrate by connecting with the professor of a class that you would like to attend just once. And listen to the lecture and maybe chat with the professor afterwards about that particular major. and learn a little bit more about it that way. So the process that's involved has a lot to do with what does every major require students to complete, and us helping you with that process. So that's some of the reason where I'd say yes. And we can treat you as though you're still heavily leaning in one of those directions and making sure that you're in step along the way. Again, that transition into your new major, when it's time, we want it to be seamless. So along the way, we're making sure that when it is time for you to declare and move on, it's not like you're starting fresh in that college and that you have to catch up on everything. These are things that you've likely been doing all along. And AEP can help you, more importantly as well, prioritize maybe which majors are important to be really careful with. Like, let's say education and even business comes to mind as well, as far as pretty involved curriculum. So that would be my recommendation for anybody considering 1, 2, or more majors. Join us, help us with, and let us help you with that process.
Wonderful. Now, does it matter if I'm a philosophy major, or does every major have to take a science course? I don't know if you can answer that. Or Emily, did you have to take a science course? I mean, I know you were bio in the beginning, but
I did take science courses, yes.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, Carolyn will have a better answer than I will, but I think everybody has like a natural science requirement in your degree audit. And what's cool about that is that you don't have to take like chemistry 600 in order to fulfill that. You can take like a very like well-rounded, like they have like food chemistry or intro to biology, like there's a lot you can do with that. So like even if you are an education major and you still have to fulfill a science credit, you can pick one that isn't going to really stress you out and give you a headache if you're not a science kind of a person, if that makes sense. Because that was my thing, is science was just not, it just wasn't for me like I thought it was. So
yeah, yes, yeah, Emily, great point. And I think part of what would be helpful is the question, the spirit of it, because I've been asked, do I have to take a math course? And it's kind of like that. Do I have to take a math course?
Yeah.
But before, when I was mentioning briefly, like, again, all the things you're going to learn when you're in higher ed, but if I were to give the shortest explanation, any major that you consider at Niagara is always going to have 2 sets of courses. The major courses, the general education requirement courses. And the major courses come from the area you're interested in. So if it's psychology, it's all your psychology courses. Education, your education courses, etc. Then there's the general education courses. And those are a wide range of courses. Anything from a writing course, a literature course, a science course, a math course, that are required of all majors. And Emily makes a great point. With advisement, we're helping students that, let's say you're asking that question because you're dreading having to take a natural science course. Well, we can help you identify the ones that are for the non-science majors that don't require any other experience in higher education, biology or chemistry. There's no labs associated with the courses. Ones that students just maybe can find that they'd have some interest in, to maybe minimize the experience if it's something that you're dreading. But that's part of that process. And the same thing with math, although math can be a little bit of a different category because that can be a different course that's required from one major to the next. But the same spirit of it is there. So that in all of these areas where you do have a choice, we're trying to help students pick things that they're going to enjoy. Because what happens when you're taking a course that you enjoy? You naturally do better, right? And it's the ones that you don't, that you're dreading, that are a little more challenging. And so how can we help you strategize to deal with that process, right? So that's part of, again, those 3 appointments, the advisement process, and what your individually assigned advisor is trying to do with you when it comes time to picking courses.
perfect. What year do you declare your major, or is that, some students are asking, I mean, can I take the full 2 years? Can I do it after a semester?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's up to 4 semesters you can be in our program. And I think Emily mentioned, like, we had to push her out the door.
yeah, you really
That's
did.
true of a lot of our students. And that's only because we developed this great working relationship with students, right? So when it's time to declare, the latest you can do it is in your 4th semester, which is spring of your sophomore year. And it's usually prior to the registration period, so that you are starting your advisement and connecting with your new faculty advisor for the start of your junior year, which is important. for those upper level courses and to be guided for that second half of your major. But you can declare after semester 1, 2, 3, and it's semester 4 at the latest. And now the only other thing I'll add is, because I think I saw a question in there, can I be an AEP for the whole 4 years? All of us who have worked in AEP, so no, you can't, unfortunately, officially. But all of the advisors in our program have met with students throughout their entire time at the university. They come back in to chat with us for consultations, to talk about some of their advisement, even though they're in good hands in their new areas and with their new faculty advisors. It's just a comfort sometimes to check back in with that original person they were assigned with in academic exploration. And Emily attested to that a little bit, right? With starting off with Stephanie, who, you know, life changes and then eventually did leave the program in the university. But that was a formative relationship. So it was a little bit like, oh no, who's next? But, you know, Katie is wonderful and great. But that's part of it, those close working relationships that students feel really connected with our advisors. And I think it helps. It takes a lot of stress out of this process, right? Because Emily mentioned, right, what your mom said was a little rough, right?
It's horrible.
We're here to minimize that process, but it's really okay to feel uncomfortable with it at first and to feel stress. That's normal and expected. And we're just here to be part of that process to help drop the shoulders, as I say, and exhale and understand that you're part of a program that has a plan. And right now, I think all of us in this country are craving a solid plan for what we're dealing with, right? So again, I know I'm going back to what's happening in our lives, but it's so true. And part of this program that's really what distinguishes us and has identified our program as award-winning, a top program winner from Niagara, outstanding advising program. You know, one of 4 colleges that was selected, colleges and universities in 2015 for a top program of this nature, is the fact that there's this plan in place and all the things that we do with students. And it's just not just to pick things, just to pick them, right? It's a comprehensive process, so.
That's, I mean, I like we said, I mean, you should brag more about being an award-winning program, but I mean.
I know, I'm a little modest that way.
I know, I get it. I understand too. I just like to bust. So
Yeah,
what
no,
about, students also are interested in knowing, what if they are in a class, like they think they want bio, and I go to my bio 101 and I hate it. Can I get out of that class right away and fill it in with another course, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, drop add is an expression for making changes to your courses at the university. Now, again, there's some time frames that these things can be done, right? So generally that's in the beginning of the semester for the first 2 weeks, but sometimes students know things right away. And Emily might even want to chime in here about what she started to sense about taking science courses initially at the university, and maybe that sense of what she felt. But, you know, I don't know, Emily, did you want to jump in here and give a little sense of what happened with your revelation?
Yeah, I can do that. So I really stuck it out. When I say I stuck it out a whole year taking these science classes. And truthfully, I should have stopped after my first semester. But in my head, I was so determined, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it well. And I just didn't. Like, and I accepted it after a while. But I think that's something super important to remember, because in my mind, I was like, I'm not living up to like my own expectations of myself. Like, I'm giving up on this like class and I'm giving up on my work. And like that, like, once again, like, that is just so far from the truth. I feel like there's just like, you have all these expectations of yourself, and that maybe like your friends and family are putting on you to, like, you go to college, you get a major, you get a degree, and you call it a day. But there's so much more than just picking a mate. Like, it's so much more than you just say like, oh, like, that's the one I want. You have to really enjoy the classes that you're taking. And if you're not, like, that's okay. And your advisor is the perfect person to be like, I've been in this class for 2 weeks now and I don't like it. I don't like what I'm learning. I don't like who I'm learning from. I just don't feel happy in there. And they'll help you figure out, like, all right, well, that's fine. So let's take a look at all of these and figure out what might be a better fit instead. So don't be afraid to voice that and say like, I hate this, because like you don't have to love everything you do. Like I think in my mind I was so excited to go to college that I just thought I had to love everything and like live this happy, perfect academic experience, which you have to have your ups and downs to figure out, like you have to figure out what you don't like in order to figure out what you do like, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's okay to want to drop out of a class. And if you do stick it out, like I got a tutor for my biology class, and I found friends that lived in the same residence hall as me, and I was able to study with them. So like there are ways to work around that if you do want to try to stick that class out. And then maybe once the semester is winding down and you have to do registration for the following semester, you realize like, this is what I didn't like. So when I register for the spring semester, for the next fall semester, I'm going to try something else. So I hope that was a decent enough
Yeah, no,
answer.
that's great. And I just want to jump in there really quickly because I know there's other questions. Emily makes a great point. Sometimes students really want to try it for as long as possible. They're just committed to this path. And sometimes for science especially, and other majors, it takes a little time. It takes some time to work through that process, maybe of letting go an initial interest that was really compelling. And even after those first 2 weeks drop ed, it's not written in stone that you cannot get out of the class. There's a withdrawal deadline as well that you can leave a course if it's just not working out. And Emily makes great points that we help students along the way if it's something to add to try to do a little bit better because they're just struggling at the course. You know, it could be 2 reasons you're not doing well. You're just not interested. So it doesn't matter, you know, how much tutoring you want to throw at it. You just don't think you can stick it out, right? Or you are interested, but it's a little challenging, so you still want to give it a little more time. And how can we help students with that? So I think those are great points that she made about all that it can involve. So, and that's from you know a fellow student, not a lot older than all of you folks, but certainly sage advice at this point.
Carolyn, are there any majors that are restricted from AEP to transferring in, like into?
No, it's a great question. Very common. No majors are restricted from academic exploration. And one of the newest ones, we used to say that nursing was a little more involved about being able to transfer into the program from academic exploration, but that's evolved as well. So essentially there are no majors that you cannot join from the academic exploration program. There's a couple directions that have some GPA requirements. Education does require a 2.5 and so does social work. So sometimes joining a major might be about meeting some of the expectations academically, but other than that, all directions are open to academic exploration students.
Is there a separate application, like if I wanted to go into nursing or anything from AEP?
No, I mean, once you're underway at the university, that would be something we would work with that department directly on as far as transitioning you towards nursing, because there is very specific coursework in that major. And I work closely with the nursing department. And I'm just so impressed with the program and the direction it's been going in. So like I said, we on a regular basis actually host the waitlist, nursing waitlist. So we have students in our program who are trying to get into the program and they're formally on a waitlist with us. So there's a lot of the staff that I'm familiar with there and that I work with directly. So it's usually just as seamless of a transition if all things are in place. Again, academically for nursing as well, like any other major.
Now, is it harder for a student to get into a specific class based on a major because they haven't declared it yet? Like, are there classes that are strictly only for business majors or things like that? Does AEP make it harder in any way or no?
No, it's not any harder. So there could be courses that are hard to get into because they're popular. Right, and they, you know, registration is still in order of completed credit hours. So in other words, there's some seniority to it, right? So the students who have been there longer, have more credit hours completed, they're selecting first. And then freshmen are usually last. So for some of that, it can be a little restrictive, but that's totally different, right? And a lot of times, freshmen aren't competing with seniors for the same courses, right? It just might be a general education course that a senior still needs to fulfill that a freshman's going to take as well, right? And the seniors, you know, fill it up because they get first choice and they know it's a very popular class. So it's one of those things, okay, you put it on hold, you take it down the road, and you get a little more seniority under your belt. But for needed first year courses, again, academic expiration is identified as students who can join those courses as well towards any of the majors.
Perfect. So one of the questions also was, what if I took a lot of AP courses throughout high school and I transfer them in? Am I ahead of the game? Can I still stay in AEP for 2 years, or do you kick us out because I have too many credits?
Yes, no kicking out necessarily, but here's what I would say. There's probably an advantage to fast tracking a student a little bit more if they have a high number of completed credit hours. So I'm talking like 30 credit hours, upwards of 30 credit hours, right? Because 15 credit hours is the equivalent of a college semester, right? So if we say 30, now we're talking that's like a full year of credit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but again, that has to do with if all those courses can go towards requirements in all the directions you're interested in. So you can have a lot of transfer credit, but it might be that not all of your transfer credit is going to go towards requirements. And that's based on the design of each major and the requirements that are part of that major, not because we say so. So if you have some that are repetitive and you know, there's only room for one, some of those others fall by the wayside. And that's all the things that we explain to students. So you can still have a lot of that working in your favor, like extra credit hours. Again, it gives you seniority quicker in that registration process that I was just talking about. And so those things are always to your advantage. But, you know, there's really no way to plan starting in high school with the AP courses that you take and having those match perfectly for the exact major you are going to choose. So a lot of times we can make good use of a high number of credit hours. But there's always a little bit of tweaking that's going to take place. And again, those are the things that you will be well aware of through your advisement appointments and meeting with your AEP advisor.
And for those students who are asking, you can send your AP credits through College Board to the university, and any transcripts you might have through a local community college or a dual enrollment program, you can send those transcripts. You can request a transcript from that community college and have it sent right to the Office of Admissions. So then we would have that all on file. So when you go to meet with your advisor over the summer, during orientation, or throughout the semester, they would have that all on file for you. So I recommend students try and get that in before you sit down with your advisor, so then they can kind of see what you have taken and where you are at that point. So one of the students also asked about new step credits. Can we transfer any new step credits in to AEP as well?
So new step credit, those are courses that students essentially are taking through Niagara University. So those are already part of your Niagara University transcript. So those courses are already listed with the grade, and the grade counts towards your GPA. So students coming to Niagara University that have taken new step courses prior, they already have completed coursework that we can see easily in your transcript. So there isn't anything to do with new step. It's already there and listed. And it's something that we pay attention to when it comes time for registering students and doing the advisement to make sure we don't duplicate those new step courses. So that's an easy one. It's already done if you come to Niagara. It's a different story if you're going somewhere else, but.
Exactly. We don't even have to request anything. It's already done.
Already done.
So another question we always get a lot of is about studying abroad. Can students study abroad through AEP? Maybe Emily, you can talk about that as well, or if you have any experience.
Right. So, yeah, go ahead, Emily. Jump in. Nope.
I was going to say, I did study abroad, but it was not for a full semester. And I took a course my junior year, and it was just an elective. It had nothing to do with my major. It was a criminal justice course, and I'm a marketing major. I just thought it sounded like a good time. Got to travel, learned about some new things, and I was able to go away for 2 weeks, and that was like a really cool experience. And I'm pretty sure that there are some restrictions with like nursing and maybe a couple other majors where study abroad gets tricky, but for most majors, you do have that flexibility. And a lot of major, like I know like the business department offers specific courses for business students that if you want to like take this opportunity, this professor will bring you to London and so on and so forth. But Carolyn will probably have a much better, like more thorough answer than I just did.
Yeah, no, that's great, Emily. And that might have been some of the conversations you were having with your AEP advisor from the beginning, as far as, hey, this is on my to-do list while I'm at the university. I'd like to study abroad. So the short story is that it's not common that students actually complete a study abroad experience while in AEP, but more commonly, maybe shortly after they leave the program. And let me explain why. You're usually not studying abroad in your first year at the university, right? It's more common that that starts in your second year and beyond. The application to study abroad is usually due early on in the semester prior to your study abroad semester, okay? So let's take the first year that you're in AEP off the table. Then that fall would be when early in that semester, you would have to get your application in to study abroad for that spring. So again, it's sometimes just a little bit too soon for students, but here's what does happen. If you express an interest in studying abroad, then your AEP advisor wants to help you prep for that. I always call this the planting seeds. Let's plant seeds of all the things that you want to see grow during your time at Niagara University. So we would refer you to the study abroad office, international relations, and have you find out about the different programs that you could potentially pursue. And yes, some of those lend better to other majors, right, as far as the courses that you're taking. And we can help guide students for the areas, the course requirements, if you will, to keep open or to save for their study abroad experience so they have a place for that coursework to go. So again, we help you with that big plan, that big picture for 4 years, so that when it is time for you to pursue that opportunity, you probably will have an easier time of having your courses placed on your curriculum card, and again, helping work towards that 4-year graduation plan so that your study abroad experience doesn't put you any further behind, right? You've already planned for it. So that's basically the process of study abroad with AEP.
Perfect. Now, only if students, I recommend if you have any more questions, put them in the group chat. If not, you feel free to say it out loud. Another question was, Carolyn, when do students get their actual academic advisor? When are students notified, and when would they get those in the upcoming months?
Right, so assigning advisors usually will take place after the summer orientation sessions, right? So here's why. Because as we expect students who have already signed up to be in our program, we have students who show up to summer orientation, and whether that's virtually or in person, depending on how things play out this summer, students change their mind during that orientation session about joining academic exploration. So we gain a lot of students throughout those orientation sessions. So anywhere from 4, 5 to 6 students per session. All right, so basically once we have the whole group together, then we sit down and we divide the students up between or among the advisors and academic exploration. Now here's what we attempt to do. If you have met prior at any time with one of those advisors, let's say you came in for an admissions visit with your parents or guardians or loved ones, etc. We try to keep students with that advisor. So if you already sat down with an advisor in our program prior to your summer orientation session and had a great chat, right, and that advisor already learned a lot about you, we want you to stay with that advisor because that relationship has basically already started. But at the latest, you're assigned during the summer, and then that advisor is going to reach out to their whole list of students shortly after everything has been assigned to introduce themselves and to, again, continue to get that relationship started with advisees. So when you're in our program, there's at no point that you don't know what's going on, because we make sure to inform you of all of those things and all of those details.
And I think that day is coming sooner than later, that summer orientation day. It'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, don't let the snow flying recently.
Yes, it's true. July was going to be here soon, guys. I swear.
I swear.
We hope. So that is all the questions we have on our end that the students have put in the group chat. So students, before you leave, will you be able to, if you haven't already, put your name in the comments so we can keep track of who's attended. The majority of us, all of us, put our contact information in there. So if there are questions that pop up that you, as soon as we close out and you think of them, please feel free to reach out to one of us. And if we don't know the answer, we can obviously direct you to the right person. More than happy to help. We're here to make this process a lot easier for you. So again, you can put your name in there, join the Facebook group if you haven't. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and spending your evening with us. So thank you, Carolyn, again, for, making this a nice general conversation, and we appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Yes. Take care.